How do you view the future of Rapid City?
People are inquiring from all parts of the country. How do we do this? How do we do that?
What other community of this size is economically diverse as this is? We have a major tourism industry. We have major ag industry. We're a major medical regional hub. We have universities. We have the air base.
I'm going to state it this way. What a great time to be living in Rapid City.
Hello, friends across America and beyond. Welcome to Amplify Rapid City. Whether you live in Rapid City, whether you're planning a visit, planning to move yourself, or maybe even your business here, Amplify Rapid City is your headquarters for valuable and exciting information and news. I'm Chris Johnson, your host, and I'd love nothing more than for you to be my guest, sit back, relax, and enjoy as we amplify Rapid City. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 14 of Amplify Rapid City. Thank you so much for tuning in again to all of you folks who have listened to all the episodes so far, and to new listeners as well. I look at my dashboard every day, and it's pretty amazing to see how the listenership has been growing since we started. Every week, we kind of set a new record over the previous week, and it just seems like we're soaring to new heights every day. I'm getting listeners from all over the country and all over the world, and I'm very gratified to see that. So I thought that I would launch a new segment, and hopefully you'll help me do that. What I'm going to ask is that you send me a letter and just tell me what you like about the show and why you listen. And on top of that, please give us some ideas for future shows. What stories would you like me to go out and get? So hopefully I'll get enough letters in so that each week I can read one or two or maybe even three letters before we get going with the show to share with our community of listeners what people are saying, what they're thinking about the show, and how you compare with them. And remember, this is important, all of you folks from Rapid City, you're not excluded from this. I want to hear from you as well. Your thoughts and ideas are all important to me no matter where you're from. All you have to do is go to my website, amplifyrapidcity.com, scroll down to the bottom, and drop me an email. Please tell us your name and where you're from and why you listen and what you think about the show. And I will pick out a couple each week to read to the audience. That pretty much covers it. So on with today's show. I hope you enjoy. I know you will. Well, you've all probably heard me say it before, and I'm sure you'll hear me say it again about a guest or a show that's coming up. But this week you are in for a real treat. And I mean that literally, because today our show is all about chocolate. Who doesn't love chocolate? And if you love chocolate, you're going to really love the kind of chocolates that we're talking about today. We're going to focus on a homegrown Rapid City business, a chocolate shop that has gained a lot of national notoriety. And there are good reasons for that, which you will find out in today's podcast. So we just happen to have the owner and creator of Chubby Chipmunk Chocolates in the studio today. And oddly enough, she goes by Chip. Please welcome Chip Totkus.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chip Totkus, and I was actually born in Southern California. I lived in Riverside most of my life, went to all-girls Catholic schools, and was a fanatic of chocolate. Since the time I was little, I just absolutely loved it. I think my grandmother started me on Hershey's bars when I was about 3 years old. So my love of chocolate has been lifelong. It's also it was a great escape for me on times when I was stressed. I would just go and bake or make chocolate or do things like that. And as I got, older, it was I just had so much fun in the kitchen that I wanted it to be a career, but my father said, no, we're not helping you if you're going to do something like that. So I went into nursing school, got a full scholarship to St. Vincent's Nursing College in Los Angeles, and finished my career, the schooling anyway, and went on to work at St. Bernardine's in San Bernardino. Worked for a year on graveyards and went almost nuts doing that. And one day I was sitting in my house up in the mountains, and I saw a little video going on about a bake shop for sale. So I called them, and next thing I knew, I owned a little bake shop. So I went to my director of nurses to tell her that I was quitting, and she said no. And I went, huh? Can't I quit? And she said, no, that isn't what I'm saying. Just hear me out. How about if I give you a leave of absence for 1 year? You'll maintain all your everything. You'll maintain your insurance, your benefits, where you stand in the organization. And 1 year from today, I want you to come back in and tell me if you still want to be a baker. And so, long story short, 1 year from that day, I went back to nursing. It was really hard to run a business entirely by yourself, but I did learn from a magazine article about a little thing called a truffle. And I was mesmerized by the fact that a truffle is chocolate, cream, and butter, and that was my food group. So I was really excited about, doing more and more truffles. So truffles started there, and I kept tweaking the recipe to be exactly what I wanted it to be.
Did this, if you don't mind me interrupting,
Not at all.
The creation of Chubby Chipmunk happened before you went back to nursing?
Yes, that was the name of the little bakery I bought. And
so the brand goes way back.
It goes way back, yeah. And when I was little, I used to collect ceramic chipmunks. So I also had gotten the name Chip from the cartoon characters Chip and Dale. We had gone to a Girl Scout camp when I was little, and my mom was the camp nurse, and so we had to pick a name. And I was a little bossy then, and so I picked Chip and told my sister she had to be Dale because she had a bigger nose. Well, I've maintained the name Chip.
I think Chip was a little bossy between the two of them, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. And so I still go by Chip. My sister does not go by Dale. So anyway, so I went back to nursing and loved it. Absolutely loved St. Bernardine's. Worked there for 15 years. And had met my husband, and he was in his final years of his military career. And one day he comes to me and he goes, "Hey, I got a great idea when I retire." And I go, "What's that?" And he goes, "I want to move to South Dakota." And I went, "Huh? What? No. Yeah. Oh, what? I'm confused." And he goes, "Yeah, it's beautiful there. I love it. I love Deadwood. I love Rapid City, and this is where I want to go." And I said, "What made you choose that?" And he goes, "Well, I was stationed there and felt that it was the most beautiful area of the world, and Rapid was a great city to raise children in." And I said, "Okay, well, let's do a test trip and let's do a 5-year plan." So we came out here, and the next thing I knew, we bought 2 houses, and it's like, oh my God, what did we do? But
what was your first impression when you came here for the first time? Obviously, not having been here.
I loved the fact that it was so cozy. It was like a hometown that was lost in the past. And after coming from an area like Southern California where it's busy and fast and just crazy, and it was just like, wow. It was mind-boggling to just feel like I had gone in the past and that I was in a safe place and it felt like home. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. I fell in love right away. My husband had just rented this little shop, and I said, well, what am I supposed to do? And he goes, why don't you just run over there to the other side of the shop and make your little chocolates? And so I went, okay, that might not be a bad idea. And so I started. First night I cried because what am I doing? You know, this is crazy. I already did this before. I didn't think I wanted to do it again. And it just exploded on its own. It was amazing.
So who was the first, do you remember the first person who tasted one of your chocolates from the South Dakota area here and what their reaction was?
Let me think here. Actually, it was one of the ministers from, I don't remember which church, but he just, he put his mouth on it, bit down, and just closed his eyes and went, And it
was validating.
Yeah,
huh?
it was validating. It was very validating. And we've just been really lucky in a lot of ways because we've had people just pop into the shop for no reason. And we had one that was an editor for the Rachel Ray magazine, and he was lost, saw the word chocolate, came into the shop and goes, oh my God, this is what I needed. And I'm thinking he didn't have a card. He didn't, oh my gosh, what is this? I'm being punked. Something's going on. And he just says, well, my name is Ponyo Giannopoulos. And I'm going, huh? That's a fake name if I ever heard one. Well, he said that he wanted to do a little story on us for the magazine. And I'm just not believing him at all. And so I just go along with it, and I go, yeah, that's great. Yeah, bring your photographer who just doesn't happen to be here over tomorrow. And so I went home and I Googled him, and I went, oh my God, there's Ponyo Giannopoulos. And he had asked me if I knew Molly Ringwald. And I went, well, of course, everybody knows Molly Ringwald. And he goes, well, that's my fiance. And we have a daughter named Matilda. And I saw all that on Google, and I'm just going, oh my God, he's legit. And then I got scared because I thought, what if this is like, what if I'm on the main page and I had just opened this shop, and oh my God, that question of what if Oprah calls and you're not ready? And so I was a little scared, but when the magazine came out, it was not real big. I was a little part of the story, and I was in the very end of the story where he talked about being lonely, but he dove into his chocolates and pulled out a toffee Trixie and said, it's not home, but it's almost as good. And we've stayed in touch over the years, and it's been interesting. I just kind of leave it open to whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I love how things just flow. And when they flow easy, I always feel, okay, that's the way it's supposed to be. And so it just kind of did its own thing. And I just made my chocolates, and it's grown since then. And I was actually shocked one day when I realized there's 15 years. And it's been an amazing adventure. Absolutely amazing.
You and I have known each other quite a while.
Yeah, we have.
And you've shared a lot of knowledge about chocolates with me, and you've introduced me to a lot of really fascinating facts about chocolate. But you mentioned that, when you were a kid, you used to eat a Hershey bar, and now you have let me know that chocolate is not just chocolate. Tell us a little bit of what you've learned about the history of chocolate and how you've arrived at a point in your life when, you could, with your eyes closed, really tell the difference between one chocolate and the next.
A Hershey bar is, that's what you kind of start with when you're young. What I did was I had learned about different companies and asked for different chocolate, for them to send me different things. And I was amazed at the differences in chocolate that is considered gourmet or fine chocolate. And that's what we do. A chocolate that to me is a really good chocolate does not have sugar as the first ingredient. A real fine chocolate will have maybe only 3 to 4 ingredients, which is your cocoa mass, your cocoa butter, some organic sugar, and maybe vanilla. I have several chocolates I use. I have created my own combination of chocolates to where when I asked for a sample, I had one company send me 9 pounds each of a different dark chocolate. And so what I ended up having to do is start playing with them. The chocolate I use is a 4-ingredient chocolate. I use that for most of my truffles, and I have used the same chocolate, the same company for the whole time because I used them at my very first Chubby Chipmunk, and I fell in love with their chocolate. And
where does that chocolate come from?
That is actually called Guitard, and Guitard is out of California. Approximately 150 years ago, there were 3 gentlemen that came into the United States. You had Guitard, you had Ghirardelli, and you had the gentleman that created Nestle's. And they all came and brought their chocolate experience to the United States. Well, Guitard is a company that, they are just marvelous to work with. They are really into purity. It is a company where if I called, little old me could actually be talking to one of the head Guitard family members that's still running it. And I was so amazed that they would actually talk to me. And I remember Gary Guitard telling me one day, he goes, "You are my report card." He said, "I want to hear from everybody. I want to know how the chocolate is. Is it coming in as it's supposed to come in?" And it's a fabulous company. I also use some Cargill chocolate. I use some Belgium chocolates. We actually have been able to create, with the 9 different dark chocolates from Guitard, I have come up with my own combination to where what we have will not be replicated anywhere else. And we take great pride in the fact that everything we do is by hand. I mean, there is not one truffle in there that is not been created and formed and dipped by the people that work for me. I have just an awesome crew.
Well, as we've heard so far, Chip is very quick to sing the praises of her crew, and she should. She has a terrific company with a great reputation. Chip has been very gracious to clue us in on who her major suppliers are and how much she reveres their reputations. But is there a secret weapon way down deep in her bag of chocolate tricks that she hasn't told us about? Find out after this brief message from our sponsor. Do you have gold or silver coins or bars that you want to sell? Or maybe you're looking to buy some? I'm happy to tell you that this episode of Amplify Rapid City is brought to you by the good folks at Presidential Pawn. They're the region's leading buyer and seller of precious metals. But they don't stop there. Presidential Pawn buys coins, even whole collections, estate jewelry, and Rolex watches, Omega watches, even classic old guitars. Let's just say if your item has value, Presidential Pawn is probably interested. No appointment is necessary, and the very friendly and knowledgeable staff is ready and willing to wait on you the minute you walk in the door. So stop in today for a free consultation at Presidential Pawn. They're easy to find. They're right on the corner of 7th and St. Joe in the heart of downtown Rapid City. You'll be glad you did. Well, Chip, first of all, I want to applaud you for your success, and I want to thank you for being so transparent as to share with us some of the secrets of making these beautiful dark truffles. But I have a feeling, just a feeling, that you may be holding out on us a little bit. And I'm going to pressure you a little bit to share with us a secret that you have deep down in your chocolate tool bag when it comes to your manufacturing process of what really are the best of your chocolates.
Oh my God. This is the chocolate that is so amazing. It is a chocolate that was thought to be extinct for 100 years. It was brought in, it was one of the number one chocolates that was used in the United States in the 1800s. It was what 85% of the people ate. And it was only thought to be in Ecuador. And so when a blight came through, I think in 1905 or so, it wiped out all this chocolate. So everybody thought this chocolate was gone forever. And what they didn't know was that some of the pods had kind of, went off to Peru and started growing there. So there was a gentleman named Dan Pearson with his son, Brian Horsley, who happened to be in Peru in 2007 and were looking for bananas because they were helping a international fruit company. Well, as they were going through this farm, he saw this tree and he goes, "Oh, that's a weird looking tree with weird looking pods," and he knew nothing about chocolate. Well, the owner, Mr. Fortunato, he kind of laughed at him and he said, "Cacao, that's chocolate. That's a chocolate tree." And so Dan, being as passionate about learning as he is, he had to research it and he had to find out. And so this chocolate was thought to be gone. These have the properties of the pure Nacional. And the pure Nacional is now called Fortunato number 4 for Mr. Fortunato. And this, I've actually been to Peru twice now, and I got to learn to harvest a cacao pod, which is amazing. It's this big yellow pod, and there's not that many that grow on a tree, and you have to take like a fork type instrument and snap it off the tree. Then it falls down. You crack it on a rock to open it up and pull out the pods, and this is still how they do it. It is not a mass-produced anything. This is what you would call single source, single origin. It is a premier grand chocolate. Let me back up a bit. How I met Dan is I saw a story in Dessert Professional magazine, and I was fascinated by the little stamp on top of the chocolate that said number 4. And I started reading the article and I went, "Whoa, this is cool." So I wrote the editor and asked, "Hey, can you tell me more about this?" Well, he calls me personally and says, "I can do better. I can have you talk to one of the gentlemen who works with Dan." I said, "That's great." So I start talking to this gentleman that's in Las Vegas, and the next thing I know, he says, "Hey, Dan's right here. Talk to him." Well, after a 2-hour conversation on the phone, I think we both were just on the same page. On the same page, he was such a nice person to talk to, was fascinated by what I did. And so he says, "I'll send you some samples." And I remember that day. It was just so exciting to see the little tiny pieces of chocolate on a plate. And so we put crackers around and a little water, and we did taste testing. And I'm just going, "Oh my God, this stuff is awesome. Absolutely awesome." So I call him back, and the next thing I know, I'm on his list to be sent a whole bunch of chocolate. And when we got it, I was like, "Oh wow." The plain box, The chocolate is not fancy looking at all. It isn't scrolled and it isn't shiny. And it comes in a box and it says sourced from ancient origins. And I just got chills. And the first time that I ever used it and tempered it and created it into something, I could almost feel the Aztec gods behind me nodding, like, hey, you got it. This is how it should be done. And I have so much fun with this chocolate. It's just amazing. It is such a long process to go from taking that pod, cracking it on a rock, pulling out the pods, and then those pods are it's in this big room, this open air, and you pour the pods or the seeds out, and then you start picking out what is not perfect. And that is what has made this company so awesome, is hand pick out anything that does not look perfect. Then it's dried in the sun. Then it is shipped back to the main factory in Switzerland that actually did make the chocolate in the 1800s. Now you have electricity, which helps a bit. But this chocolate is ground, and that's the main thing. It's called conching. And it's grinding and grinding and grinding until you get this liquid coming out. This chocolate is ground for 60 hours. They call it longitudinal conching, if you want the exact words. And to give you an example, some of the name brand chocolates, their conching is 30 minutes. So this is a chocolate that is loved from the time it's being babied on the tree to the time that we get it, and we continue to work with it with lots of love. And may I mention that all the dark chocolate from Fortunato is vegan friendly. It's I actually have found a super berry, which is a combination of 24 organic berries, and so we created one of the bars to have those in them. It's been just a fantastic run with Fortunato because it is so rare, and it's such a one of the chocolatiers called it a gift of the gods, which is actually theobromine, which is actually chocolate. So we like to think of it like that. It was a fluke that it was refound, and I'm just really excited that I get to be a part of it. We actually carry a bar, and it's kind of weird to say that we're the only ones in the world that carry it, but we are. It was the very first crop after this chocolate was rediscovered, and I am the only one in the world who was selling the chocolate in the very first crop. And I would say we may get through this year with it, but it's going fast.
You continue to use this Fortunato chocolate to a great degree, but you have other suppliers as well. Primarily, what you're famous for right now is the truffles.
Correct. Uh-huh.
You have a lot of flavors that are really wild and very unique, and in many cases unique only to Chubby Chipmunk.
Right.
How do you go about creating a new flavor of truffle?
How do you describe how I do this? A lot of times I'm just laying in bed and I'm starting to go to sleep, and I'm like, whoa, yeah, there's one. Yeah, they're unique flavors. Matter of fact, we're just finishing up our run with our cheddar beer cheesecake truffle, which...
I'll stop there.
Yeah.
I want everyone listening to just imagine now, try to think of what a cheddar beer cheesecake truffle. How do you describe what that tastes like for people who can't pick one up right now and taste it?
What I usually do is, let me cut one, you taste it, and they'll go, no. And then I'll go, really, please, just do me a favor, just taste it. And they usually taste it and they go, oh, I can taste some beer. Oh my goodness, a little bit of cheese. But there's still the sweetness of the truffle. It's hard to describe the flavor, but I now have people that come to the rally every year and call me up a month in advance and say, hey, I want, you better have that. I want to order 2 dozen. And so it's almost like it was real hard to convince people to taste things. Now I think they're starting to realize that I've got a quirky side to myself, and that some of these truffles that sound weird might be pretty darn good. I just brought out, and it's something that I don't know how the reaction will be because we just started it yesterday, but it's a butter beer from Harry Potter. So it has no beer in it, but it is I kind of like to think of it as a cross between butterscotch shortbread and cream soda. And a lot of the new ones, they just come out for a little while, and then, we have our standard 40 truffles that we always carry. But I always like the thought of something new and different, so I'm always wanting to create things. And one of the things we did start just this last year is a relationship with Lost Cabin Brewery. So, segue into that.
That was one of our other guests.
Aha! Yes, I love those people. They are so cool. And what they did, and we have nibs from our Fortunata number 4. They took the nibs and they created a brew. It's a Belgian Stupel ale called Fortunata number 4. And you take a little bit of that chocolate with that beer, and honest to God, you are in heaven. It is amazing, this new pairing of beer with chocolate. And I've had so much fun with them. I've done some Fortunata truffles. I've done some of their infusions, like the Lord Grizzly Scotch Ale. We actually have that right now, and that's infused. And it's a truffle that has notes and tones of toffee and figs. And so we make all of our toffee and all of our caramel there at the shop, so we get to use some of those items in with the beer infusion.
Did you ever develop a flavor simply by accident?
Actually, yes. The Chipmunk Treasure, which is our number one seller, was an accident. It was so funny because I was making some toffee and I didn't quite like how it went. And anyway, long story short, I just kind of started, I didn't want to throw away anything, so I just started putting things together and go, okay, maybe some of that will be good. Maybe some of that will be good. And before I knew it, I went, this tastes pretty good. So, yeah.
I believe the Chipmunk Treasure is the one featured on a video that's still out there for people to see.
Right.
You can see how that's actually built, maybe.
Right. Yes.
So how do people find that video?
They can go to YouTube and just go Chubby Chipmunk, and they'll bring up all the videos, and they're great videos. They tell a story. It's not just a commercial.
Now, if you're in Rapid City or coming to Rapid City, you have one major outlet.
Oh, yes.
Here in Rapid City. You want to tell us about that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It is at the Hotel Alex Johnson, and they have just been fantastic to work with. We are now in our own kiosk in the Starbucks that is attached to the Hotel Alex Johnson. And yeah, I love that little spot. It is really great. It's great, easy to get to. You can actually park, put your flashers on, go in, get your chocolate, and head on out.
And you also have a really nifty alternative for after hours and other times. You have a chocolate vending machine?
Yes, we don't have the vending machine at Alex Johnson yet. It is the Chub-O-Matic, and we have one outside of the business in Deadwood, and one of them is at the Civic Center right outside the small theater.
So if you really want one, you can get one.
Yeah. I had some ladies that sent me a picture of all of them in their curlers and pajamas at 2 a.m. Because they were sisters that got together and played poker on certain nights. And then they would all get in the car, run down, and go to the Chub-O-Matic and get a bunch of chocolate and leave again.
So how do people, if they're listening to this podcast and they want to find out how to order some chocolates from you, where do they go?
You can go to our website, which is www.chubbychipmunk, all one word, .com.
And once they get in there, how do they find out how much it costs to ship and how much the chocolates themselves cost and what different packages?
There is a different buttons that you can push, and one of them, I believe, it does say shop on it. Okay. And then there is another section called truffles where you can actually visualize the different truffles. And then there's another button, too, that you can push that would be entirely the story of the Fortunato, number 4.
And if you're living in New York, which I just saw yesterday, we've got some listeners from there, and you want, after hearing this show, to taste these chocolates in the next couple of days, is that going to happen?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we have a lot of New York clients. This has been, I had some people from Florida walk in just last week and say, "We want you to know that you are famous in Florida." And I'm going, well, maybe not all of Florida, but this particular block has 3 people. Who knows? But it's been really a fun ride, and to meet all these people, and people are passionate. People are passionate about their chocolate, and I want to do everything that I can to make the experience fun.
And if people come to Rapid City and they want to find you, how do they find you?
Well, the people at the Alex Johnson will definitely tell them if they want to know where they're made. And so that is kind of the factory up in Deadwood, and that's where our main shop is. And but we ship down to Rapid City 3 times a week. You know, we want to make everybody feel great. That's the whole concept.
And folks, I want to tell you, Deadwood is famous for gambling. And I'm sorry to say, if you love to gamble, go ahead and gamble in Deadwood. But when you go to Chubby Chipmunk, you're not gambling. I'm afraid you're just going to win every time you buy one.
Well, it's funny. I have tons of stories. I have just absolutely tons of stories that just make me smile or laugh. And I have one lady that comes in like clockwork, because she won a car after coming to Chubby Chipmunk. So she now feels it's her lucky charm.
Are we going to be able to keep you here in the Black Hills?
Oh, you betcha. I'm not going anywhere. That's what cracks me up, is that once we got into the Academy Awards and we've done a lot of, big name people and stuff, people have come in and go, "Well, when are you moving to the big city and stuff?" And I go, "Why would I do that? I love it here. I love the people of this area. I love where I live. It's such a comforting place to live."
Well, one thing we haven't talked about is that I just want to mention before we let you go, is these chocolates don't only taste incredible, but they're really beautiful to look at. If you love art, if you love chocolate, and if you love South Dakota, you're going to get all 3 by having a Chubby Chipmunk chocolate, and maybe more than one. I guarantee if you have one, you're going to have more than one.
I like to hear that.
Chip, it's been such a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much. I hope this isn't the last time we visit.
I hope not. We'll just have to do Amplify Rapid City Chubby Chipmunk Part 2.
Amen to that.
Okay.
Thanip you so much for joining us, Chip.
Thank you, Chris. Always nice to see you, too.
Well, where does the time go? Especially when you're having so much fun talking about something so wonderful. Do yourself a favor today. Get online, get on chubbychipmunk.com, and learn more about these wonderful world-class chocolates called Chubby Chipmunk. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for doing your part to help me amplify Rapid City.